So I got a lot of questions how to make this table, and so I'll quickly run you through what I did to make it. I cut 8 sections, 14-inch long with 45s to the outside, and so the top and the bottom are the exact same size, 14 inches square, and I used a clamp, a corner clamp, to clamp them together, make them perfectly square, and then clamp them to a square surface to weld them off, ground them smooth. You want to make your cuts exact as possible because any little variance will just be that much more magnified in the finished product. So then what I did is I decided on a height, and I used the edge of the table here and came up. This is 3/4 inch tubing, so I just came up an inch, and these are square pieces of plate here. I just came up an inch, squared that line across, and then I decided how tall I wanted the table. In this case I wanted it 28 inches, so I came up 29 inches. Marked that. Squared that line across. Squared this line across, and then lined out these two pieces, the insides of them, or the outsides depending on how tall you want your table, to the lines. Made them perfectly square to each other because the plates are cut exactly square, and then clamped them down like this before any of these cross sections are on here. And then you measure from the bottom, this corner, you measure from that corner to that corner, and as well as on the top. Make sure all your measurements are exact and be as exact as possible. If you have to put another piece of steel up here and put more clamps on here, or all 4 corners to make it sit perfectly, that's important as well. So then for cutting the pieces, if you look at the design here, come in here and I'll show you, all it really is 4 of these pieces, one coming from this corner to this corner, the same length of piece going from this corner to this corner, the same length of piece going from that corner to that corner, and that corner to that corner. That's the beginning of the table. And so to figure that, I decided on the height of the table I wanted, and then I took a piece of 3/4 inch tubing and I laid it along right here where my tape is laying, between the 2 squared lines that I drew on the table. And I marked the angle on this one, and I marked the angle right here. Now I did find a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I did that, as we all know, on a triangle. That'll give you the hypotenuse. But then this was an easier way to just mark it out. And so I did that, cut 4 of those pieces exactly, and then to begin setting them up, I began with the first one, had the tabletop set down, laid it on here, like here, used clamps to clamp it down to the square surface, tacked it there, released it, flipped it, did it exactly the same for all 4 of these. And then to add these sections in, all you have to do is come over here, as you mark, take the tape measure, decide how many of these pieces you want in between. I wanted 3 additional to each of these that were there. So you take that and you mark equidistance on those. And then I believe on mine it was 3 3/4, 7, and 10 1/4. And so you mark the center of that, and then what I did is I just held up a piece of tubing. You measure the same distance off on here as well. I just held up a piece of tubing here, let it lay up on top there, drew a line, cut it with the grinder. It's a compound angle, so you just eyeball it out to there, draw it down to there, cut that with the grinder, put it on there, put a magnet kind of there to hold it, come up here, eyeball it there, cut it a little shorter because as it drops down, it's going to become a little longer, and then you just do that for each of them. And then you just tack those all in there, do the same for the other side. Make sure everything is then clamped really solid to a square surface. All the corners, constantly measure the corners, make sure everything is square to each other, and then just weld it off. And there you have it.